Hello and welcome to Lightning Component Development Day Session 6. I'm Amit Singh, and here in this day we will add a new method on the in class of the controller class of contact list controller for inserting a new contact, and then we will modify the JS controller method to call the method with the required parameters for inserting the contact, and we will refresh the contact list view to show the inserted contact with the related account, and then we will also see how we can handle the error using the JavaScript controller, and we will see how we can validate the input using the JavaScript code, and we will also create the project UI part that will be a component BeerSearch component UI, and we will create a new component that will be a Beer Explorer, the component for our application or project, and we'll also see what kind of events are available in the system in the Lightning whenever we are working, and we'll also show a quick demo of component event to register and fire the component events for the BeerSearch and Beer Explorer. So let's go ahead and start working on the same. So we will add a new method on the Apex class. So let's go ahead. So here is the developer console. Open developer console. So this is our class. So what we'll do, we will add a new method for inserting a class contact for enabled public static. We will return a contact, the inserted contact, and we'll name it create contact. For the parameters, what parameter we will use? We will use the contact parameters as a con, and then ID for account ID. Then in this contact we will assign the account ID, and then we will insert the contact. After inserting, we will return the same. Oops, this is so here what we are doing, we are just passing two parameters that we will get from the JavaScript controllers, and the whole contact that we created here, and then an account ID, the component, the account inside which we are using our component, and then we are inserting that contact related with that account. So first let's go ahead and see where we have put our component. So go to the sales application, and here inside sales application go to accounts, open any contact. So here you can see that we are using the component inside here, and we have only 4 contacts as of now. So we will pass this information as a contact and the account ID from a JavaScript controller to Salesforce Apex class. So as this is the component, first what we need to do, we need to associate this class with the quick contact component so that we can use the method inside that class controllers. And now on click of this button, we will add a new method. On click, do save. We will add this method here as well, and inside here first we will do what we'll do, we'll get the object of action class using component dot get method, and inside get we need to pass the action provider and the name of the method that is inside the class. Then next step, we will add the parameters and to pass the parameters. And on the next step, we will add the callback. And at the last, we will send the action to the server. So let's start adding the parameters. Con account ID. So we will add con colon and then account ID. So as we are using this component inside a new account, and we are already implementing the interface, and that is, as we are passing this component, we are using this component inside the contact list. Here you can see that quick contact, and inside this the parent component, we have a record ID that is giving us the record ID for that contact. So what we will do, we will create a new variable, we will create a new attribute, and name it account ID, and then type as a string. What we'll do, we'll pass the value in this parameter from the parent component. So to pass the variable from the parent component, we just need to use the same name as here in the component, and then using the same v dot record ID, the same we are using to get the record ID from the component. So now what we will do, here in the component, we will just use component.get. As we are getting the value, so we will use value providers, and then the name of the variable here in the component. And for contact, we will just use component.get v dot this. And this is so okay, because of this we are getting there. So here you can see this is the name of the attribute that we created for the contact. As we defaulted these values as a first name, last name and email, and then we are using this attribute here as inside the value for the lightning input. So what it will do, whatever the value we will input for the first name, last name, email, phone, the values will be stored here in these attributes, and then we can easily get those values once we are using the component.get with this for this attribute. So we don't need to get the value one by one. And now what we will do, we will just get where state equal to response.get state, and here we can check, like in earlier tutorial we saw we can provide here the state for which we wanted to execute the callback, but the best practice is to pass the all here so that we can execute this particular section for all the state, no matter whatever the state we are getting from the server. So and here then we can put the check. For example, I can check state equal to triple equal to success, or draft. So if we are getting any of these two states, and that means we are successfully able to perform the operation. We just need to get the data from the response using response.getReturnValue method. And else if we can check if there are other states that are coming from the server. So as we discussed, we have multiple states, so we'll check for the incomplete, and then we'll check for the error. So once if the response is success, means if you are able to create the contact, you will execute this particular line. If you are not able to, we will execute these other lines. We will see later. First we will see if you are able to create the contact or not, and because then after we will see how we can handle the error from the JavaScript using if you are getting any error from the server side. So let's go ahead and refresh this particular component once. After refreshing the component, just say that child component amit at subdcpanther.com and phone as. If you click on create contact, we should get an alert either of success or any other state. Let's go ahead and click. As we are not able to get any alert because we just need to refresh once. You can see we are able to get the success response. It means we are successfully able to create the contact in the system. Now let's say that we are able to only see 4 contacts. Now if we'll refresh, we will be able to see 5 contacts over here because we recently created a new contact related with this account. So let's see if you are successfully able to do. You can see the same contact that we created recently. So now what if I am sending some email, not like in the email form, I'm just sending this one. Just remove the validation from the component. For example, last name is required to create the contact, and then for the email we are already using email as a input type. So let's say like if I'm not sending first last name, I'll get an error from the server side. So what error I'll get, for that what we need to do, we just need to, here in the controller inside error, for getting the error we can use the response method, and there is a method for get error. It returns the array of errors, and now we can check if we have error. That means if error is not null and not undefined, or because it returns the object and there we do have message for each object. We'll just put the console log over here and see. And we'll see what error message we are getting. Either we can just, so let's go ahead and refresh the page again and try. So here now I'm putting first name, I'm not giving last name, I'm just giving email.com, and for the phone I'm just putting random numbers. Let me click on create contact. You can see that we are able to get the error as a response, and to show the console log, let's go to console, and here you can see on the console error, you can see duplicate result we don't have, page error we have, and we can see required fields missing, required fields are missing last name. So to get these kind of errors, you can see that we have an array duplicate results, we have an array field error, we have an array for page error. So what we can do, if you wanted to get these kind of errors to show the users, we can just go ahead and we can just get like get back here. As it returns duplicate, we can just dot this. Page errors and field errors. You can see that field error, and then we can see that page error. So here inside page error, you can see that message. This is the message that we are checking here inside 0. So now as we are checking for all three, we can just go ahead, refresh the page and see if you are able to do or not. Let's refresh once more. Actually market required, so we need to provide this. Now let's click on create contact. You can see right success. Oh, they're giving last name as 23. Okay, nice one. Now click on contact error. You can see, oops, we are getting undefined. Let's see how we can improve this. So let's try to put 0 over here and see if you are able to get the error. Like if you are able to get the error, we can easily identify that yes, we are getting the error. So this is the page. Okay, refresh once more. So here let's go ahead and let's go ahead and just click on create contact and see if you are able to get the error or not. Okay, error. You can see now we are able to see we don't have anything here. Field errors. Then for the page errors we have. So now we can use, like, we can get a status code, we can get message to show the users. So this is the way we can handle the error that we are getting from the server, and we'll also see how we can use wrapper classes for handling the error in a more convenience way. So here just comment it out. So now if you here you can also see that these fields are required, but if you are not giving anything, we are still able to submit the contact. So to put the validation here, we can just simply use either you can get this variable something like this. Let's say that we can get contact over here, and then we can use, for example, if contact dot first name equal to null, or first name equal to undefined. Then we can just show the alert. Please input first name, and then return the code from here to execute the other lines. Now if you'll see, go back, refresh again. Click on create contact. Okay, let's go ahead and create. Oops, I think we are getting any error on the back end. Required field using last name. What happened? This is the now let's go ahead and see if you are able to get. No. Let's see to put this complete code inside the else action so that we can see if we are going to inside if or not. Refresh again. Okay, let's click on this. Oh, we are not able to pass this condition. Okay, let me put one more thing. I think that this is because of this, because here you can see in the component we are passing the value as this. So now I believe that it should work. Click once more for getting the latest data. Or here you can just now click on create contact. You can see that please input the first name. So this is the way, first way we can put the validation rule on the JavaScript. And let's say what if in our form we have more than 100 fields, like 100 500 fields, so we cannot put the validation rule like this. This will be very headache. So what we can do, we can just use another concept. We can use the reduce method for the JavaScript, and then we can use standard method for the lightning input. If you can go to the specifications, you can see that there are a number of parameters that we can identify: message when bad input, pattern match, mismatch, value mismatch, range overflow, underflow. So we can use these attributes of the input and parameters, and then we can utilize the for the validation rule. For this I have a sample code. What we'll do, for this we need to, okay, here we don't need this particular part. We also need this, don't need. Copy this, okay. So the first requirement is this: for the aura ID for all the input must be same. Here you can see that I provided aura ID for the all in the input contacts, contact form. And then what we can do, we can just use component.find aura ID the same way that we are using for the finding the aura ID. And then we can use reduce method. What reduce method does, it reduces the value and returns one by one. So what we'll do, we are using here valid show for the validity. If by default value for this attribute is true, and then the input component each and every time. Like for example, if you are finding this first name, then second last name, then email, then phone, so here these components will come one by one, and here, and then this is the standard method. So help message if invalid. Here if you can go and find, you will see the message that is so help method if invalid. And for setting the error for the input component, like here if you wanted to show the error here inside the first name, or if email or phone, you can just use set without validity, valid as a false and bad input as a true. So now let's go ahead and see if, and here what we are checking, if bad valid contact, we can also put the alert for valid contact, like it will return true if all the values for all the inputs are there, otherwise it will return false. And here then we are using, if that is false, we are just please input all the inputs. So we will just refresh and see if you are able to do that. This is the previous one. Now it should work. Create contact, we can see that we are getting false. Please input all the inputs, and we are also seeing able to see that complete this field, complete this field, complete this field. Let's say that I'm providing the value for this field, clicking on create contact, you can see that we are not getting any error message on the first name field because we are providing the value for this. And now what if you wanted to change the message, we can also overwrite. For example, here you can see message when bad input, you can just put, let me show you. If you wanted to use that for the first name, let me one message when bad input, please enter first name, and we'll also use required for the last name, and we'll use message when bad input as a last name is required to create the contact. Last name is required to create the contact. So let's go ahead and refresh. I believe I need to refresh 2 times. So here if we'll click on create contact, oops, we are not able to override this. What happened? I believe we need to use message when value missing instead of message when bad input, because bad input is for email purpose. Like for example, if I say I complete this email as this, you can see that you have entered an invalid format. So this is the way we can validate. We can put the validation on the client side. And for example, sometimes what if we are using some validation rule from the backend to get the data, to get the clear data on our Salesforce. We provide the data, required data from the UI part, but validation fails. So to fetch those kind of errors, we need to validate using the JavaScript response.getError method. And here we can show the message, we can set the message to the component, we can set the message to the component variable, and then we can show that this is the error we are getting while creating the contact. For example, here on the error we are getting the page error, and then page error we have dot message. We can set this message by creating an attribute. For example, let's say attribute name equal to message type equal to string, and here in this attribute we can set this error message using the component set method, and here in this message just set this message, and this show this message, and just for demo purpose I am just putting this here, sorry, without error message, sorry, oops, error message here. Now refresh. So what we'll do, we will get the error message over here. We can also use for showing the toast, we can also use for displaying the pop-ups with the error message. So there are numerous ways you can display the error message. To handle, either we can use the UI part validation, that is we are already handling. If you are not able to handle that, and let's say that I'm not saying that this is not valid, just click, it is saying that it's not valid, but still let me able to show that. Here you can see that please all inputs enter. Oops. Okay, so we are not submitting, we are not able to submit the form, and this is because that particular thing is not letting us to submit the form. So this is how we can for example, if you have some validation rule and we are getting error message, let's say that we can just use the same concept here for this one. To show that if you are able to get that message over there or not. So here let's say we are contact, we are getting the error, and we are also seeing that please input all the inputs that we are setting for that variable. So we can also show the error message to the users. So this is the complete way we can handle the error from the client side. We can handle the error that we are getting from the server side. So let's go on this next topic. So here we already modified the JavaScript controller. We added a new method in the Apex class. We added a new method in the JavaScript class for JavaScript controller for calling the Apex class and to insert the contact. And then we also added the error handling using the get error method, page error, message. We also see the field error and the one I forgot one. So we saw that what kind of error we can get from the Salesforce server side. We will use the wrapper classes on the next tutorial to handle the different kind of errors. And then for that we validated JavaScript using controller helper. We used the same RID and then reduce function for reducing the component in a single, and then we used the inbuilt method of lightning input that Salesforce is providing. So next is introduction to event. So we have three types of event here in our Salesforce component while we are working with the lightning. First is component event, second one is application event, and the third one is system event. So basically, most of the time we are dealing with all three events. The main difference between component events and application event is that component event can only be handled by the parent component, and then can only be fired by the child component that can be handled by the parent component. And the application event can be handled by any component that is inside that particular application. And then the system events are like the constructor init method, on change method. If you are changing the value of any particular attribute and we wanted to invoke some ls class or some javascript method, we can use that one. We can also use location change. For example, if you are clicking on particular click and that is responsible for making the change on the location in a lightning application, system error, and if user have no access to this kind of the system events we have available. So we will take a look the events, and we will take a look the events in a particular separate session, but here we are going to use the component event. So this is why the brief introduction about the components event, application event, and system events. So next what we will do, we will create a new component. First we will create a new component for our application. So before we go and create a new component, let me show you the data model that I created, and I'll also give the link of the project files, the data model, and the records that we are going to use on the day 5 session video description link. So let's go ahead and see what kind of data model we are using. Let me go ahead and first let me show you the object, and then I will show you the data. Go to setup and then object manager. Here in the object manager I created object beer. So here this is the object details, whatever the fields we have alcohol percentage, name, delivery ID, name, created by ID. So these are the fields and that I already listed these fields with their data type and whatever it should be. So there was one change for the total quantity, it is number 5 and 0, and then for the remaining quantity it is also number 5 and 0. And now let's see what data we have for this object. I already imported using the CSV file that I already shared with you all. Yeah, here you can say that these are the records we have. So what we will do now, we will create a component, and that is called as we will name it Beer Explorer. That will be the parent component for all the components. And we are going to use as a tab, so we will be creating a tab for this. And then we will create a new component, that is BeerSearch, because we are going to create a search UI. So we will create a BeerSearch. We are not going to use this, we will use this component inside the beer component. Oops, let me open that. So let's call this component inside that so that you can see the output. So as of now we are not using anything inside this. If we'll output this application from here, we will not be able to see anything. Let's go ahead and see. We are not okay. So let's go ahead and put something here inside the division tag, as we need to give some padding from the top, bottom, and all around. So let's go ahead to the SLDS. And for here we do have a lightning input type of search. We'll go to the lightning component library, find lightning input, and then here from the example we can just select search input, search with hidden label. We just need to use this here in our component, because the label is hidden. We don't need to use this. BeerSearch, type search, name, you can provide RID, search input. So now if you'll go ahead to the application and refresh, you will be able to see some basic UI. You can see that we are able to see the basic UI that is covering the whole part of this screen. So first thing what we'll do, we'll provide some basic padding from here. So SLDS, sorry, SLDS, open this, or instead of searching over there, we can just go ahead contact list and copy this class. Inside this, now if you'll refresh, you will see that we are able to get some margin. So what we'll do, we will also create a new component that will put a header component, something like Beer Explorer, anything that you wanted to give some taglines over here. So we will use some header. So we'll create a new component, and we will be using header, and inside that header component we are not going to hard code any values, so that if you wanted to use this particular header component in any other application, we can reuse this header component. So what we'll do, we will create attribute, so that whatever value we wanted to pass from different application, we can reuse. So this is the basic reusable component that is called as a reusable component. We can create once and reuse wherever in different application we wanted to use. So I can say that tagline type equal to string, and that's it. As of now we are going to use this only. And now for showing the headers, just go to SLDS, click on type header here, and then find page header, and then here you just need to be selected as a base. Copy this, and here inside this particular component, header component, just go ahead and paste that. What we'll do, we're going to use this, remove this particular section, because SVG doesn't work here. If you wanted to use SVG, we have to use this tag. Now here we can just use our tagline, this, and then here if you wanted to use some basic things, let's say that create a new attribute for this as well, and let's say that message, and we will use here that as a message. And now what we'll do, we'll use this particular header component inside our Beer Explorer component, that is the header component. So let's put inside division tag, and then C colon header component. And now as we are using two attributes here, one is tagline, and we wanted to pass the value, we can just use the name, and then as Beer Explorer, and then message search and order beer in a very easy manner. Now if you'll go ahead, refresh this, you will see that we are able to see the header over here, that beer explorer such an easy order in a very easy way. Now let's go ahead and put this inside a division tag as well. So this is the simple thing. If you wanted to change the color for this background, you can just go ahead and select the element, and for this select page header, this one, and here you can put that background color, and here you can also see what is the color, anything. For example, let's say that yellow. It's not working. Yeah, for example, if you are using yellow green, you can just go ahead and see that here SLDS page header. So go to the component, on the header component, this is the SLDS page header. Use a style tag, and here you can put that same. If you'll go ahead and refresh this, you will be simply able to see that. So this is the basic UI that we wanted to create. Now next, what we'll create a new component event with a variable. We'll create a lightning event. Let's say that search event, so that we can reuse this event as well if you wanted to use further in our application. As we are going to use components, so change it as component, and then you can also use attributes inside the event. So what we'll do, attribute name search text. This attribute, we are going to hold the value for the search, whatever the user will type in the input, and then we will send back this input to the parent component, so that parent component take the input attribute or a column attribute, so that parent component take the value and then make the search, perform the search operation. So this is the basic way, and in the next video from the starting, we will see how we can register the component event, and then how we can handle that component event from the parent component. So this was it for the today's session. I hope you learned something new here. Please stay tuned, and I'll get back to you on the next session, day 7. Thank you guys for watching the video.